And joining me now is Republican Congressman Dave Brat, who represents Virginia. Congressman, it is always good to see you, especially today since you are a Virginia congressman. What is your reaction? Your colleague Scott Taylor called this a referendum on the president. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't agree with that at all. I think it's a referendum on exactly what the news is. If the news reports on the exit polls, the number one issue is health care. Our side failed to nationalize the election. The Democrats did it. We failed. 40% increase in premiums going out in the news under Obamacare. We failed to tell people that's a Democrat bill. Second issue on the exit polls is the economy. Two-thirds of the folks going out said Virginia's doing great economically. It grew last year at 0.6%. We failed to tell people Virginia is not growing, and that growth supports the government jobs of Northern Virginia. So they don't know that it's coming to an end unless you get growth. And then finally, we're doing tax cuts, and the Democrats in the progressive budget increased taxes $10 trillion. We forgot to tell them that. So the Democrats did a good job of nationalizing the election.
I'm not sure your numbers are right on the growth in Virginia. I think it may be on a slight downtick, but it's overall.
No, go look it up.
It's
we
overall,
always used
but
to.
It's got less unemployment than the vast majority of the states in our union.
I was on the governor's panel for economics under Kaine and under a Republican governor. I tracked that stuff. We always used to outperform the nation. In the last several years, we're underperforming U.S. GDP growth, and you can go check it all out.
Dave, we're going to check that out. I'm sorry, Congressman, we're going to check that out. Secondly, you talked about you failed to convey to American voters that Obamacare was going to raise their premiums and that it was terrible. Yeah. In Maine, there was a vote to expand Medicare. I mean, that is an endorsement. I'm sorry, Medicaid, an endorsement of Obamacare. The polls, one after another, always said that people wanted Obamacare to stay, that your bill in the House and the bill that they tried to throw together in the Senate was not popular. So do you not take this as a sign, what happened in Maine, what happened in Virginia, what happened across the country, that maybe Republicans need to recalibrate, reach across the aisle, find a way to come up with some bipartisan deals that expand their message to something beyond let's tear down everything that happened in the 8 years before?
Right. No, I do not. Your first point is absolutely wrong. Medicaid expansion is a reaction to exactly the increasing premiums. When premiums are going up 40% and healthcare consumes 1/3 of your income, that's the new study out this year. Obamacare consumes 1/3 of your income. If that's the case, you go into freakout mode because the Democrats have ruined the healthcare sector. And so is it time to compromise on more Obamacare, more slow economic growth, more debt? The debt doubled from $10 trillion to $20 trillion. And the Democrats put in a $10 trillion tax increase and $11 trillion in spending increase. And so, I mean, if we would have sold that bill of goods, we would have won.
Dave,
we've got to do much better.
I keep calling you Dave. I apologize, Congressman. Congressman. I see you so much that I feel like I'm on first name basis with you.
You are. That's fine.
You keep selling this, and you say it all the time when you come on my show and when you're on MSNBC or other networks, and you say it, and the message is out there. Right. Voters rejected it.
I say it. Right. Our leadership is. We don't have it out there. At the state level, Ed ran on great. He had 20 policy planks about efficiency in Virginia, and that's good. You got to have that, right? He had the most responsible policy prescriptions you could have. But if the national piece trumps the state piece, you've also got to have those 3 points in place. Healthcare was number 1. 2 is the economy, and then we're cutting taxes while the Democrats are increasing it. We're pro-business, while the Democrats are regulating business into zero growth. We should be winning, and we didn't because we didn't get it out.
Virginia, it was New Jersey. There were other Democrat wins across the country that we saw with Medicaid in Maine. Congressman, do you think that what do you think Republicans like Ed Gillespie should have done last night in order to win? Should he have embraced the president more, as the president said, or should he have even distance himself more, maybe run on a 2013-2012 version of Ed Gillespie instead of the 2017 version we saw, which was talking about monuments and as some might say, campaigning on race?
Yeah, I think Lindsey Graham actually had the right answer right off the top of his head. He said, we need to perform up here, right? Our policy trumps state level policy. State level, you can have a little bit of an impact, right? but the U.S. macro policy dwarfs any state's policies. And so when our Senate failed to repeal Obamacare, that was it, right? And we don't have tax through yet, so everybody's waiting to see if they get a tax cut, and we better get that piece right as well. And so Ed ran a good campaign on rational Virginia policy, but the national indicators were dwarfing the state level.
So, Congressman, when you are up for re-election next year, are you going to campaign with President Trump?
I'm going to do exactly what I did for the last 3 years. I ran on the Virginia Republican creed, which is free markets, follow the Constitution, faith in God. I won by 15%. I think the people in my district like that message. I have a 100% voting record on that message. I kept my promises 100% of the time. I'm 100% on small business. The Democrats are at 30 and 17, respectively, in the U.S. Senate. That's not pro-business. And so I think I've got a pretty good record to run on.
So are you going to campaign with President Trump?
I'm fully embracing his agenda, which includes tax cuts, Obamacare repeal, and regulatory decrease. Yes, I'm on board that agenda if we get it through. The Senate bombed, right? Some people are trying to say it's a White House thing. He hasn't got a chance to veto or sign anything yet. We need to get the Senate to get some bills through, and then I'll be a happy guy.
So are you going to campaign with President Trump?
Yeah, sure. If he comes down to the Commonwealth and campaigns for us, of course.
Congressman Dave Brat, thank you very much for joining us.